Hello, everybody. For this webinar on the 9-box grid, we have two speakers today. The first speaker is Magali Carlier. She's a former human capital manager at D'Ieteren Auto. D'Ieteren is a key player on the automotive market in Belgium, and you will learn more about the company very soon, and she will share a testimonial on the implementation of the 9-box in a corporate. And she will be followed by Reggie Degen, who is the founder of Q7Leader, and today our head of content and innovation. And Reggie is also a lecturer at the Solvay Brussels Schools of Economics and Management. So Magali, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Victor. So first of all, I would like to give you some words about D'Ieteren Auto in a nutshell. So D'Ieteren Auto is the main player on the automotive sector and in Belgium. So 1 in 5 cars in the Belgian fleet is sold by D'Ieteren and its dealers. So D'Ieteren is therefore as a market share of more than 20% in Belgium. So the different brands you can see on the slide are exclusively distributed by D'Ieteren. The main challenge facing all players in the automotive sector is adaptability to the evolution of mobility. That's why in 2014, we were wondering whether we were ready to face these challenges with all the unknowns. Do we have the right skills on board? Do we have the right structure? So who are the people who have the capacity to grow, and with it, what time frame? And we were able to observe more things at that time. The first thing we could observe is the fact that the bank was empty. There were holes in our reserve. We saw there was a lack of succession for a whole range of key roles. And we could not look for recent graduates at university or in a high school, because these key roles require prior training in our company. So that's the example of a sales planning and pricing manager who has the role of the right hand of a brand director and is responsible for the negotiation and purchase of vehicles and from the importer in Germany. So it's not a job you can learn in one night. In other words, we had holes in our reserves because we had not anticipated enough. That was my first observation. Second observation was the aging of the population, and certainly at the top. Our CEO realized that he had to renew his own team and that he did not know whether there were any potential successors in the company and within D'Ieteren Auto. They were on the executive committee for more than 60 years, except for the CEO himself, who was the youngest. Okay, that was my second observation. The questions we then asked ourselves at that time was, okay, do we have the potential among our population to move into key roles with or without development? And here I would like to stop for a moment to give you our definition of talent management and why it exists. A strategy to help an organization get the maximum return from its human capital now and in the future. That's what we call ROHCI, return on human capital investment. Talent management maximizes the values that employees add to the organization and to themselves. It's important. Okay, here in this context, the questions asked is clear, and question concerning succession planning. But as we know, the different aspects of talent management are interlinked, and it's with Koreans that we need to act at different levels in order to achieve results. That I'm sure you know that. So you cannot take certain measures in succession without also taking measures in talent sourcing and in leadership development, for instance. In the succession planning cycle, the 9-grid tool was used in the second phase. And so after the inventory of critical roles and the definitions of expected profiles, we decided to use the 9-grid tool in the inventory of potential successors. Okay, how was the 9-grid built up? You can see different slides here and a grid. In fact, we had made it difficult to define the two axes so precisely. That's right. In addition to the definition of the 3 levels, we had also raised a number of questions to help manager argue their choice. We went to see the managers to fill the 9-grid for a number of about 150 people. We guided the managers, we challenged them, and yet in the end, we were not very happy with the results. We felt very well that the map we came up with did not reflect reality, and the real potential did not come to the fore. So there were a lot of bias. What do I mean? You can see and you can read some example of this bias. In spite of all these precautions we had taken, there were a huge amount of prejudice that played. A few examples: a fear of losing the best. If I say it's very good, I risk losing this excellent member of my team, and I'm just going to say that it is average. The manager feels judged. If I am a good manager, I can only have excellent people on my team. I'm an excellent manager. A third one, it's a confusion between potential and performance. But it happens very often. So he performed well last year, so he has potential. I'm sure there are prejudices you will probably recognize. So what did we do at that time? We have not stopped here. We went to see the managers again, and we have been able to resolve most of this by confronting them with additional elements. So you can see these elements: competence level, experience, attitude, career expectation and personal ambition, job seniority, attrition risk, impact of loss. So you see we had add some elements, and with these elements we can have more objectivity. My conclusion: the first experience has enabled us to draw certain conclusions. The first one is the use of the 9-grid alone is totally insufficient. The second one is that it's an exercise that reveals managers. The third one is values. Value should be taken into account because values make all the difference. So how can we be better and more successful the next time? We could be better profiling all the talents, and not only the N-1 or N, but also the N-2, N-3, and so on, because there is here too there are talents, and everyone should be considered as talent, I think. We can also be better if we can work within a reasonable time frame by avoiding going to the managers a second time, because we have lost a lot of time. The third thing is respecting the principle of subsidiarity by interviewing direct managers and not only directors, because direct managers, the manager, are responsible for their peoples. It's very important. And the last one is, yes, why not, developing leadership skills. we can use this exercise to develop leadership skills, I think. So after this pilot project, I had the opportunity to meet the Q7Leader team with Reggie. And in 2016, we carried out our first pilot project, which changed the lives of managers, really. They are equipped now at D'Ieteren to give qualitative and multidimensional feedback. And we have also been able to find solutions in succession planning. So, Reggie, it's up to you.
Thank you, Magali, for this interesting testimonial. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this second part of the Beyond the 9-Box Grid presentation. We want to lead you this morning through the concept of taking talent management down to the shop floor, particularly looking for objectivity and equity. As we all know, 9-Box Grid is mostly used for senior management, and we don't believe that the future is going that way. So let me take you through this presentation, starting by the origin and popularity of the 9-Box Grid. Let's remember that this is a 1970s business development tool that was done by McKinsey for General Electric, and it was meant as mostly as a succession planning tool for senior executives. Interestingly, it is still today applied and used in most corporate environments. Up to 90% of the large corporations are still familiar and using it today. The real question is, does this 9-Box Grid do the job? And the very interesting research that you could find in Harvard Business Review, which you can see the references down there, actually gives you the answer. It refers to the idiosyncratic rater effect. What does it say? My rating of you on a quality such as your potential is driven not by you but not by who you are, but instead by my own self. And this research says that 61% of someone's rating on somebody else's potential, in fact, talks about the person who's rating. So when a board member actually says that a senior executive has potential, he actually comes with a very strong bias in his judgment. And the question is, how come such an obvious biased tool still exists today? Well, the explanation is the following. First, it's the ecosystem of our leaders. It's very difficult to get top executives or board members and so on to just learn new stuff around the HR or management of HR. And therefore, now that the 9-Box is actually well known to many of them, they don't want to change. And they are ego driven anyway. So if they think somebody is good, that person is good. And so, you know, it's quite difficult to make them look at different ways to consider talent management. And there is a second reason why it's difficult to get away from this 9-Box. It's the lack of alternative. It's true that it's a very clever tool, and it's not like we would say it's crap and we should throw it away, but it's the reality. It's easy to teach, easy to practice, and that's the talent management dilemma. How can I, as a talent manager or as an HR manager, change their habits when this tool is working? It does the job, let's be clear. It's not qualitative, but it does the job. And so that's the real challenge that talent management in the 21st century is facing. Now, here are the five most popular objections against the 9-Box Grid. The first one is lack of objectivity. Let's be clear, this is a judgmental tool. It has a huge risk of lack of calibration and auditability. I think this person is good, so this person is good, so what? How do you argument around this statement? The second thing is lack of effectiveness and credibility. Interestingly enough, a worldwide survey has proven that for many companies and from HR directors, it is seen as a box-ticking exercise. okay, we need to do a sort of talent management and succession planning tool. Let's use a 9-box, and there we go and tick the box. The third objection is a question of precision. Only 2 axes of judgment makes a very weak analytic capacity of the tool. And that's why it's probably acceptable if it's only limited to very senior roles, because it doesn't require as much detail and precision than you would need if you would go lower in the organization. The fourth objection has to do with the danger of feedback. Imagine if you got good news, that's easy, you can tell the story. But if you have to tell a story on the 9-box grid as a feedback and negative feedback, you better be strong in your argumentation. And it's not this information that you will get in the 9-box grid. And last but not least, in our views, the problem of 9-box grid is that it's often a disconnected tool. It's not integrated with the rest of the HR ecosystem, which is sad, because you would want to have a very logical chain or suite of intelligence in HR going for competence, performance, potential, for instance, part of one same exercise. Now, here are 5 good reasons why we believe companies must go beyond the 9-box grid. The first one is very well summarized by Deloitte. The way high-performing organizations operate today is radically different from how they operated 10 years ago. Yet many organizations continue to operate according to industrial age models. Now, the use of a 9-box grid is a perfect example. It's a perfectly well-designed tool for the industrial age, but it's probably no longer the kind of tool you would want to see in today's world. One reason for that is that the world of today has pretty much changed. Today, this slide shows you that we are in 2020 for the first time meeting 5 generations on the shop floor simultaneously. It's no longer, you know, the baby boomer who actually has to be followed by someone. You now can choose amongst 5 possible generations. And that's why we say in the world of today, talent management needs to go down to the shop floor, because your talents of tomorrow are not particularly in the natural next generation. They could very well be in more junior generations. Another reason why we need to move beyond the 9-box grid is this collaborative economy. The future of HR is influenced by collaborative economy, by the collaborations as a paradigm of the new economy, and particularly for managers. You want to involve line managers, not just top executives or HR, because the job of the manager tomorrow, in fact today already, is to be the talent manager. It's the role of the manager to identify, attract, develop, retain talent down to the shop floor. So you need to give them the tools that they can use and that makes sense to them so that they can do their job. The fourth reason why you need to go beyond the 9-box grid is the problem of data. The future of HR is no doubt in data and analytics, just like finance, by the way. It's been a long time that finance is able to be strong because it can, you know, it talks facts and data. We are still very much in judgment. A 9-box grid gives you only 2 axes, and you cannot get good analytics and insights with this limited perspective. The last reason why we believe 9-box grid should also be considered as only a sub-element of talent management is the job of HR. This chart shows you that the future of HR is going to be looking for solutions that work on employee engagement, and the job will be to integrate those solutions so that you can get more data. You can go through competence analytics, through talent analytics, performance analytics, and therefore the potential view is going to be too limited if you only have a limited tool set such as 9-box. All right, so now I've expressed some criticism on this 9-box, but obviously you would want me to come up with alternatives. I go back to Deloitte because it's a very interesting survey. You want to look at it. It's the human capital trend, annual human capital trend of Deloitte. This one is dated 2017, and it did summarize, I believe, very well where the challenge lies. It's called Organizations of the Future Arriving Now. It was actually highlighting 3 elements. If you want to be looking at the future, you need to consider a framework approach. We call that system thinking. And it says organizations should create a framework for understanding and measuring its complement of skills across the enterprise. So you first need a system thinking approach, not just two little pieces of the puzzle of the 9 box. 2, says Deloitte, you must have this framework. Many haven't done that, but you need that because you need to allow all your managers to have a clear understanding of the situation. So if you have a framework, then you need to be sure that everybody understands it well. So it has to be well described, which is not possible. The 9 box is much too limited. And thirdly, it says the system only works if you also have data out of that. And those data are current and easily accessible. We thought that this summary, I mean, I've just taken a few sentences of this study, is actually exactly the story. You have to have a framework, you have to be sure that managers understand all the details of it, and it has to produce some data easily accessible. Now, coming from there, Q7Leader and also as a lecturer at university, we've been researching how do we take advantage of this new world and these new visions. So what is our perspective on this? Talking about the basic framework, well, we said, okay, looking at all the questions that we need to resolve in a talent exercise, we start from talent potential. That's obvious, the number 1. But this has to be put in perspective. And that's why we say, if you want to take a framework and build a framework, you have to first have talent against roles and responsibilities, just not out of the blue. You have to look at roles and responsibilities, which kind of role, and then which kind of talent. In other words, you can do talent management for a blue-collar worker because you need them also to be framed and spotted. So you need roles and responsibilities. You need to look also at competences. So talent, if you think of talent, talent talks about the future. It's the potential. Whereas competence speaks about the present. This is what the person has. And then you also need to look at the past. How did this person operate in the past? And that's why performance management also is an element of that framework. Then you want to put this into the context of the company, where we talk about vision and values. The way people do things is as important what they do. So you need to have this ingredient too. And then you have to put that into perspective of where does the person sit on its reward situation versus the role versus its expectations, career plans, and workforce planning, which is classically, all right, who do I need to source in the coming so many months or years? And where do the people sit in their career too? So you have to have this ingredient. Now you can see Q1 to Q7. This is giving you the reason why we called our company Q7Leader, because we observed that you can do talent management in the 21st century, going beyond the 9 box, but you do need at least seven angles of reflection so that you can get a qualitative output. Now, going back to Deloitte, they said you need a basic framework, and then they said you need to a clear understanding of where we are. Well, for that, we developed this clear understanding, which we integrated. Every piece of the puzzle that I just described now, the 7 Qs, have been put into a format of a common language. And this common language allows the managers to address all these bits and pieces as if they were all HR literate people. It has to be simplified, otherwise people don't waste their time to it. But as you can see, this is a quick view of the summary, but it actually all fits together. And that's the second piece that we've achieved. We created a common language. And thirdly, because you've got the 1 and the 2, then you can come up with data. And so we've developed this artificial intelligence application, which, based on the answers that managers will give you on those bits of Q1 to Q7, plus the ingredients we've put into the system, the algorithm is giving you an answer to your key questions. Who's not in the right role? Who's my top talent? Who is part of the competence pool? Who is not performing in line with levels of competences? Actually, we've taken all the questions. This is just a cut of those questions. We've got like more than 20 questions, which are the key questions which we in HR need to have answers on, so that we can do true performance, competence, and talent management. All right, so a summary of what I just said. Hopefully you got it clearly. We believe that the future of talent management goes through 1, facts and objective data. So for that, you can't just go with 2 little pieces and 9 blocks. 2, you need a light digital process that produces analytics, because that is what gives credibility to HR, and that's what will bring talent managers at the table of the executives. Just like finance is doing with their analytics, we need to do the same in HR. 3, the future of HR goes down to the shop floor. You cannot just manage talent on the top executives, because that's not the world where it's going. So we need solutions which allow you to do the same exercise down to the shop floor. And to make it work, you need 4, a capacity to get managers working together. It's called collaborative leadership. I can give you a very interesting story around that, but collaborative tools are key to get talent management to the level of quality that you're looking for. And 5, well, because many of us work on global mode, and recently with the COVID, it also has to be operated remotely. You cannot have tools which force you to sit in the same meeting room together. All right, so this is the conclusion of this presentation. Of course, I'd like you to want to know more about this. This chart is actually giving you a way to understand how we operate all what I just explained. We call this Standard Review 3.0, and would love to have you join one of our sessions where we experience this with prospects or with managers interested in understanding what the next talent generation tools can be. And as you can see, it starts with making a profiling of a team member. So you would experience how you do this profiling, so that you can come up with a first result on, okay, this is the talent I'm talking about. Then through artificial intelligence, and we have a discussion which is led by one of our coaches, which in practice with our customers will be the HR manager, who's actually the facilitator of this exercise. And out of there, at the end, you will then get your insights and HR action plans, classically, which will be all linked to personal development of employees, but also making decisions on reward, and particularly decisions which are documented in the way that you are feeling objective. So please join us for one of our Talent Reviews 3.0, and see you there.